Okay, now we press the reset button over here to return us to the baseline place. Okay, where we see the brain cut in different planes here. Just to review, this is the sagittal plane, this is the coronal plane, and this is the axial plane. So if you're at the website, you can actually drag this 3D view of the brain. So you want to see it on the coronal plane, sagittal plane, or axial plane. Now let's go to the axial plane, because the most widely spread imaging that you may have in your area is the CT scan, which is only done in the axial planes. Okay, so let's just reposition this brain so we can see most of it. Now focus your attention on this box. Now let's bring the plane, the cleaver of the plane at the very top, because that's where most CT scans begin. Okay, focus here. We're right here at the apex of the brain, so we'll bring the brain up. So that's the apex, that's the vertex of the brain. So we bring the brain up into view. Okay, so frontal is in front, parietal is the back. Our basis for this is the central sulcus of Rolando. So let's look for it here on the 3D brain. This is the central sulcus. Okay, so let's go back here again. So we're cutting from the vertex of the brain going down to your neck. So we drag this brain up, 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 and up. So a lot of white matter here. So this is the centrum semi-ovale. We want to go backwards again, up to the vertex. Okay, so you see here this central sulcus. Alongside it, there is a precentral gyrus and a postcentral gyrus. So artificial demarcation, anything anterior to the central sulcus is frontal. Anything posterior to that is parietal over here. Okay, so back again here. We move the brain up, cut and cut and cut. Reposition it here. And move. Okay, so centrum semi-ovale is the white matter area before you see any of the ventricular system. The moment we bring it down here, that the chambers start to appear, you can see the fibers radiating alongside the lateral ventricle. So that's the area we call the corona radiata. This gray matter here is actually the caudate nucleus, which forms the lateral wall of the lateral ventricle. Okay, so here we have. So let's go down a bit. Okay. So this white matter that connects the frontal with the frontal is your corpus callosum genu. So let's move this a bit so we can see where we are. So we are at the level of the corpus callosum in terms of our knife or a cleaver. This space here is the sylvian fissure. So let's move down. So here we see the lateral ventricles. You see here the septum pellucidum, and then these two white matter bundles are actually coming from the hippocampus behind. So these are the fornices or the fornix. Alright, so we go down and see these are the hippocampi. if we move back, those are the fornices over here, going underneath the splenium of the corpus callosum. Okay, so if we went down too fast, we go back up again, just so we don't miss anything. So these two grooves here are the calcarine sulci, or fissures, of the occipital lobe. Okay, so that we didn't miss anything. So let's go back down to the level of where we saw the hippocampi over here. Okay, so this is the cut where we see the different layers of the insula. So this is the gray matter of the insula. It's white matter underneath, which is called the extreme capsule. And this thin sliver of gray matter, which is called the claustrum. You zoom in on it for now at this level. Okay, gray matter, white matter. Gray matter, which is the claustrum. So the JavaScript of the website doesn't show it very well, but this gray line that you see on your screens is the claustrum, underneath of which is the external capsule. And these are the basal ganglia. So this is the caudate nucleus. This was the anterior limb of the internal capsule that I was mentioning earlier. Together with the posterior limb over here, it forms a kind of a boomerang structure. And medial to that boomerang is this thalamus, which forms the lateral wall this time of the third ventricle. Okay, this hole from the lateral ventricle going into the third is the foramen of Monro. So one each on both sides. So the putamen is joined here by the globus pallidus. So that is the structure of the insula. So gray, white, gray, white, gray, gray, white, gray. Okay, so now we zoom out again to fit that brain in the box. And now we proceed. Okay, if we went down too fast, we go back again here where we saw the calcarine fissure. That's the stroke that we saw earlier. So that stroke is found here in the posterior limb of the internal capsule. That's the thalamus over there. So we go down. We find the hippocampi over here. That is your pineal gland in the midline. Then we proceed further. The pineal gland disappears. So if we zoom in again here, we see here a connection between the two thalami just beneath the pineal gland. So that connection, okay, it can be either two things. It could be the stalk of the pineal gland or the massa intermedia, but it appears in this specimen it's connected to the pineal gland. So right beneath the pineal gland is another commissure that joins the two parts of the midbrain below it. So this is the posterior commissure over here. So that's posterior commissure. So let's zoom out again, reposition our brain, and proceed downwards. Okay, so at this point, remember, in front, the caudate and the putamen will join together to form the nucleus accumbens over here. So that is roughly the same area where we saw the anterior commissure. So you see this connection between temporal lobe here and temporal lobe here. This is the anterior commissure. So you saw it just like the posterior commissure, they join the two hemispheres together. And the biggest commissure of all is the corpus callosum. So we proceed downwards. So that's already the midbrain, which is part of the brainstem. As you can see here, and you'll see the deeper implications of this, the substantia nigra of the midbrain actually continues on with the basal ganglia here. So they're actually connected in terms of not just their anatomy, but their function. This is the cerebellum, which will be discussed by Dr. Baticolon. So we proceed further down. We see here the plane where the hippocampus is actually close to the amygdala in front of it. So if you proceed downwards, this is your amygdala, and that's your hippocampus. And as you proceed further down, we already start to see mostly the base of the brain, the base of the temporal lobe, in the middle cerebral fossa, the base of the frontal lobe in the anterior cranial fossa, and everything here forms the structures inside the posterior cranial fossa. So we will go back to this again for the brainstem. So we'll stop here for the axial cuts.